Everybody, welcome to Church in Ocean Park on this Labor Day Sunday. Glad to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Going to start off with a song. I think I've used this one before for Labor Day. It's one of my favorite songs about work, and this is by Charlie King.
Yeah.
Our life is more than our work, and our work is more than our job. So the chorus goes like this. Oh, our life is more than our work, and our work is more than our job. Oh, our life is more than our work, and our work is more than our job. Okay. Look all around you, say, look all around you. See all there is just to be alive about. Look all around you at the people around you. See all there is just to being alive. Oh, our life is more than our work, and our work, oh, is more than our job. Oh, our life is more than our work, and our work is more than our job. Yes, I love this song. Now let's see. Get myself the second verse up here. Time clocks and bosses, investments and losses. How can we measure our life in numerals? Time clocks and bosses, investments and losses. How can we measure our life in this way? Oh, our life is more than our work, and our work is more than our job. Oh, our life is more than our work, and our work is more than our job. Think how our life could be, feel how our life could flow, if just for once we could get into letting go. Think how our life could be, feel how our life could flow, if just for once we could let ourselves go. Oh, our life is more than our work, and our work is more than our job. Yes, our life, oh, is more than our work, and our work, oh, is more than our job. One more verse says, let go what holds you back, close your eyes, take a dive. We've got a universe we've got to keep alive. Let go what holds you back, close your eyes, take a dive. We've got a universe fighting to live. Oh, our life is more than our work, and our work is more than our job. Yes, our life is more than our work, and our work is more than our job. Welcome to Church in Ocean Park.
Yes, welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, Reverend Floyd. Welcome, everybody. My name is Joseph Hepburn, and I am sometimes called Chaplain Hepburn because I do chaplaincy still. But you are all welcome. You are welcome if you have just come in from a long hip-hop celebration. You're welcome if you attend protest marches, or if you're confused about what to do. You are welcome if you are interfaith, if you are Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, atheist, religious atheist, as one patient told me he is. and any combination of these all together. You are welcome if you are a renter, landlord, or both. We extend a special invitation to those who are single, married, divorced, cisgender, transgender, filthy rich or dirt poor, or if you have no resources at all, we have here for you an open door. We extend a special invitation to those who are just out of jail and looking for a welcoming community. We don't care if you're more religious than the Pope or more ceremonial than the King of the United Kingdom. We invite soccer moms, tree huggers, latte sippers, vegetarians, junk food eaters. We offer a special invitation to those who work so hard, those who don't work, can't spell, or don't have the idea that this is a, well, some say a strange church. We invite those who are inked, pierced, or both. From Haiti to Maury to all the countries and communities that are in suffering right now, we offer them a special invitation, persons like those. We offer all who are in grief, all who could use a prayer right now, or even those who had religion shoved down their throats as children. We invite tourist seekers, doubters, bleeding hearts, and you. Yes, welcome to the church in Ocean Park.
Thank you, Chaplain Joseph. I'm Reverend Janet Gollery McKithen, and I'm the pastor at the church in Ocean Park, and I also welcome you here. This is a unique multi-religious community that is focused on helping to create a more equitable and sustainable world for all. This morning, some of us come with joy and some of us come with pain. However you come this morning, know that we are a community and we hold it all. We hold the joy, we hold the pain, and we know that you might be in either situation at any moment. We are excited that Mimi Kennedy will bring the message this morning. Welcome, Mimi. And Larry Dilge will provide some music. Welcome, Larry. I'm so excited. So happy you're both a part of the church in Ocean Park. We got very lucky when you turned your gaze our direction. We want to begin by acknowledging that most of us right now are sitting on stolen land. In Santa Monica, the land was taken violently from the Chumash, the Quiche, and the Tongva peoples. We acknowledge the harms of genocide, forced assimilation, enslavement, and destruction at the hands of U.S. colonial settlerism. We acknowledge that our communities and country were built on the backs of people who were stolen from Africa, placed into bondage, and forced into labor. We acknowledge that we benefit from that labor that has never been repaid. In our acknowledgement, let us commit ourselves to healing by helping to create a new, just, and equitable world through the struggle of how we do things that we see are as normal, but that are actually systemically hurting people. We all have biases, and it takes intentionality to build compassion and community for people whose lives are very different from ours. At the church in Ocean Park, we seek to work together across boundaries to tear down unjust systems and build new relationships of healing and love. This morning, you'll hear from a variety of people. If you hear something you disagree with, know that they don't speak for the church in Ocean Park in its entirety. They speak for it just as much as you do, no matter if you've been here, this is your first time, or you've been here for many, many years. Thank you for being a part of this community. Thank you for helping break barriers and build more compassion. Thank you for being a part of trying to bend the arc toward justice. And now we center ourselves each week by a chant from Thich Nhat Hanh. I have arrived, I am home, in the here and in the now, 3 times. So take a deep breath with me. I have arrived, I am home, in the here and in the now. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. Welcome to the church in Ocean Park.
Thank you, Janet. Good morning, everybody. I'm Louise, music minister here. And I have a song for you. Instead of a reading, we're going to have an extra song this morning. And I want to sing the song Joe Hill. The words were written by Alfred Hayes and put to music by the great composer Earl Robinson from 1936. Of course, he was big on labor rights and people's rights. I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night, alive as you and me. Says I, but Joe, you're 10 years dead. I never died, said he. I never died, says he. In Salt Lake Joe, says I to him standing by my bed. They framed you on a murder charge, says Joe, but I ain't dead. Says Joe, but I ain't dead. The copper bosses shot you, Joe. They killed you, Joe, says I. Takes more than guns to kill a man, says Joe, I didn't die. Says Joe, I didn't die. And standing there as big as life and smiling with his eyes, says Joe, what they could never kill went on to organize, went on to organize. From San Diego up to Maine, in every mine and mill, where workers stand up for their rights, it's there you'll find Joe Hill. It's there you'll find Joe Hill. I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night, alive as you and me. Says I, but Joe, you're 10 years dead. I never died, says he. I never died, says he. All right, thank you. And now we have the great Larry Dill to do a song for us. And I think Mimi's going to join him. I'm not sure what song they're doing first, but welcome, Larry and Mimi.
We're doing Step by Step, song by Pete Seeger, though it sounds like one of those songs that's been around forever.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Step the longest march can be won, can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly none, singly none. And by union what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none, singly none.
Step by step, the
Step
longest
by
march
step, the longest march can be won. Can be
Many
won.
stones can form
Many
an
stones
arch,
can form
singly
an
none,
arch, singly none,
and
singly
by
none.
union what
And
we
by
will
union what we
can
will
be accomplished
can
still.
be
Drops
accomplished
of
still.
water
Drops
turn a
of
mill,
water turn a
singly
mill,
none,
singly none, singly none. Step by step, the longest march
can be won, can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly none, singly none. And by union what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none, singly none, singly none. Okay, so there are strikes all over America right now and union organizing, and one of the big ones is SAG and the Writers Union. And I realize I'm probably talking to people. Raise your hand if you've ever been or are now in any artists union, whether it's musicians or, SAG or any performer union. Okay, so some of us know what this is, which there is a basic problem. The human expression in art is considered a great joy and a privilege to do it for large audiences. So there is a disconnect when people ask to be paid for it as workers, as laborers. So it's like, well, isn't it enough that you have the attention and you're doing what you love? Margaret Prescott is a person who argues that all women, the Women's Global Alliance, women should be paid for the work they do raising children and being in the home. There are a lot of ways in which the labor movement has always been against, workers in management, as if it's you have a job you don't necessarily love, but you have to be remunerated for it. He had to correct my pronunciation. That's just an overall thing that I want to talk about in terms of how people regard actors on strike and writers on strike and what Hollywood is all about. And I didn't know if I was the right one to talk about unions. I was raised in Rochester, New York, where Kodak forbid unions and stop them by having a very patriarchal system. We'll give you everything you want. People loved their Kodak jobs because it was very paternal and everything was provided for them. But consequently, growing up, I knew very little about unions. When I got my first union card, it was 1972, Actors Equity. And to me, it was a magical key that opened a door that allowed me to be a professional actor and be paid for doing what I loved. I was single. I had roommates. I was a secretary on the side the whole time, but I did one commercial and got my Screen Actors Guild card. And I was beginning to find out what everything was about. I first got Actors Equity and then Screen Actors. I've just found out that Actors Equity started in 1913 because actors were exploited. They would go on these tours and then the tour would fail somewhere in Iowa and they'd be stuck in a hotel with no money for a way home, and the producer would have absconded with all the receipts from the box office. And this happened very often, and actors were utterly destitute in many ways. SAG, they struck. Actors struck in 1929, and it was a big deal. And all the then they struck. The Actors Union in New York asked for Hollywood to strike, and then Hollywood came to the New York actors saying, we'll offer you a job because these people out here are on strike. How dare they? And any Actors Equity guy who took a job in Hollywood would be banned from the Actors Equity Union. So it was the first until they were, got the new contract and they could reapply for admission. So that was the first big union thing in 1929, and of course followed the Depression. All right. The statistics many of you may know, $27.73 per hour is the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics says that's our actors' average hourly wage. So that averages Tom Cruise's $10 million with my $600 that I just earned on an indie waiver movie for 2 days. But that's the average. Also, that presumes, you hear something like that, and it presumes that actors are working 52 weeks a year.
But of course, we're not. Even the most successful of us, me on Mom, I only did 22 episodes a year. So I really only worked 22 weeks a year. And I made a fantastic amount of money. And I saved it because my father always taught me you save a third, spend a third, and give a third away. And I have always done that. And actors, even at the top, always do that. They save, they give stuff away. And of course, taxes and agents and managers and hairstylists and designer, all of that, we keep a bevy of people going at their jobs as well during a sustaining of our career. Residuals have been the lifeblood for the successful working actor who gets to be on a series, because there's the series and then there's the reruns of the series and the forever reruns, and we used to get paid for that. Under the streaming thing like Succession and Reservation Dogs and anything you watch on Netflix, you're paid once and then you're never paid again. And this has thrown people into a real dilemma, the writers and the actors, because while people are binging, 5 years after you've done a job, and they're loving your face and they're getting to know your career, you're being paid nothing. And that is a problem for sustaining this $23.73 an hour. So people have to bring their kids out of school. People have to sell their houses. It's rich people's problems, to be sure, but it's also the Hollywood economy. Scale for an actor, the bottom line of what you can make on an weekly show. Up until 2022, it was $3,756 a week. It's a fantastic amount of money per week. But of course, you might only make it 10 weeks per year. So now you're making, $37,000 a year, which can be great if you're single and you're just starting out, but it's not enough for a family. It's not enough for housing, even rental here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, 86% of SAG's 160,000 members, they don't make the amount you have to make a year to get health insurance from our union, and that is $26,470 a year. I'm not going to make it this year because I haven't worked except for in these little indie things, $600 here, $800 there. And luckily, I'll be having Medicare. So I'm old enough to look into that and see how I get that. But I didn't make $26,000 this year, and I'm a, pretty famous working actress. But actors always live off their savings in between gigs. And there was a very funny thing on Instagram where an actor said, they think they're going to break the strike because they're going to find out what it's like to be unemployed for a long time. He said, that's an actor's life. We start out that way, and that's how it is even when we're famous. So the threat of being out of work for a long time is something most actors somewhere along the line are used to. I want to ask, what about fame being its own reward? I'm talking about the psychological context now of what this labor action is up against. Do you remember Andy Warhol saying in the future everyone will be famous for 15 minutes? As if we're all going to get paid with some fame. Okay. Kind of the producers kind of still think that, and they're now thinking during your 15 minutes of fame, we're going to pay you for your image and for who you are. We'll pay you a fantastic amount of money at your 15-minute point when you're famous, and then we'll own it in perpetuity. And part of this strike is asking for informed consent. You cannot use an actor's voice and name. You can't make a robot out of it and stick it into scenes in a movie that the actor never saw the script for. In other words, an actor's in a movie, they're doing their role, and now the movie's over, and you don't want to bring them back to refilm. You can't get back to Marrakesh or wherever you did it. You're just going to do a robot and stick it into a fake setting and have the scene you want in the movie. This is part of the ideas that spring from the executive's head going, I want this, but I don't want to deal with a human being to get it. I just want to pay the human being to capture them. And now we're going to do what I say. The actors are fighting that because the idea is we do own ourselves. I mean, we go into a contract and we do the story that we agree to do. But after that, if you want to do more, we have to have informed consent about what it is we're contributing to the story, a piece that we never saw. I don't want to be raped. I don't want to, murder my child. I don't want to do something that you put it in later that if I'd seen it in the script, I wouldn't have done it. So fame is not its own reward. And this is making actors obstreperous to some of the newer executives who come from social media and information technology. And they're like, why can't we just have our own ideas and use robots and AI to write it and robots to perform it? That's what we do in video games. We hire somebody to move around on a green screen, and then we make up the story. I think people will find, we know, working in community and being in community, the richness of what that produces. And to not have that is going to create a sterility, and people are going to be bored with those stories, just the way a 3-year-old walks away from a new toy. I also think, I think executives in management are a little jealous of actors. They've always been jealous. They like to hang out with their star actors so that they can get some of the attention too. I think this is very understandable, but it shouldn't be in the way now of a labor negotiation where the actors union is trying to elevate the working actor to a status where they can make enough money, given the conditions that we're in now, streaming, to continue being laborers in our economy with houses generally, sending their kids to school, being able to make their medical insurance. That's what we're asking for. And the producers are going, you're unrealistic. You've heard that trope for an actor. Who's Mimi Kennedy? Get me Mimi Kennedy. Get me a Mimi Kennedy type. Get me a young Mimi Kennedy. Who's Mimi Kennedy? I would say that's distilled to who's Mimi Kennedy? Get me Mimi Kennedy. Buy Mimi Kennedy's image. End of story. That's the whole thing. After that, who's Mimi Kennedy becomes, is she a real human being? We don't even care anymore. We've got her as long as she's famous, even if she's dead. So, there's another thing. So exploitation of actors because of greed, because of jealousy. This is what a union, many drops turn a mill, has to stand against and fight for. It's the only way to not be exploited. Another piece has come into this. We're changing the culture. The Me Too movement and what happened to Harvey Weinstein is very interesting because it suggests that when you make or break a career, that used to be an old power, and you used to be able to get intimate with the people whose careers you made. And that's over. With the respect and dignity that people have demanded, that kind of intimate exploitation is over. It's illegal. You will end up in jail. And to some degree, that has backed people off. Like, oh God, anything I do with these people, they don't like it. So let's just get some robots. I honestly believe that video games have normalized that idea. And again, we're fighting to improve the culture. A cartoon movie is fine. All this CGI, yeah, as far as it goes, there's some attractive acts. My kids love the video games, so do my grandsons, but they are not the same as the storytelling in our culture of contemporary people or even historical people embedded in history or in contemporary culture. We need that. And that's what actors and writers have always been paid for. And the fact that these new executives are thinking, we don't need you anymore, they're wrong. But it's going to take time, I think, for them to realize that. And they think that we'll break because, we're not working. But we're fighting for some important things. There's some stories that I love that actors tell. One, there was an actress from Orange is the New Black, and she was in curlers and a robe, and she walked into an elevator in her building, and the 2 elevator repairmen turned around and started squealing. She said, like teenage girls, she said, because they were so excited to see her, and they wanted a selfie with her. And she was thrilled that they were fans, but it shows that, we can't keep up the appearance of what Hollywood actors are supposed to be. we're usually content with that, but there's a very big disconnect between who people think we are and who we actually are. And we're really asking to just equalize that so that we can have a sustainable living and not retreat, into the floorboards in between jobs. Another actor once told a story back when we were auditioning in person. Now we audition on Zoom, and it takes 4 hours sometimes to do makeup, lighting, memorize. It's work. We're not paid for it. And sometimes I've done 2 or 3 of these a week. So I'm working 3 days a week on doing this stuff, but it's not paid for. Actors are trying to find a way to get paid for, or at least limit the amount we're asked to do. But this certain actor walked in and a casting director said, he had dandruff on his suit and the suit was a little shiny. And once that happens and an actor starts looking seedy, the career is over. I won't be asking him in again. So it was probably an actor who'd been a long time between jobs and was a little older. And because he was, had not earned enough, he was just considered, that's it, that's over. And I often present that as the dilemma of the working actor, to try to stay a working actor. It's a little easier now. Things have changed a bit. Anyway, if you have any questions, ask me. But we are fighting for residuals. We're fighting for informed consent. It is not greed. We're asking these executives to acknowledge that we have to have residuals from the new streaming platforms. And this is not video games, and we are not robots. And if that's what you want to go to, all robots all the time, you're going to learn that there's going to be a real limitation on your earnings and on people's enthusiasm and interest about your projects.
Okay.
Fran Drescher is the perfect person to be leading our union. She got her big break by sitting next to an executive on an airplane and pitching him her idea for The Nanny, a series about a New York child caregiver. And it was a huge hit, and she convinced him. And she has been both a star and a working actress, and she is a hard ass. And I'm glad she's in charge of our union and these negotiations. So that's it for now. Thank you. Now I really will just wait and just find out what people want to know.
Thank you, Mimi. Thank you so much. I didn't tell you who Mimi is ahead of time. Most of you know her, but I do want to share with you that in her long and successful acting career, she starred in series like Dharma and Greg, The Two of Us, and Mom, and in such movies as Midnight in Paris and In the Loop. In 2003, she accompanied Dennis Kucinich on much of his presidential primary campaign, the only one to oppose the war in Iraq. She lent her name to the Garment Workers Campaign to unionize Forever 21. She helped found Progressive Democrats of America in 2004 and became an expert on election integrity, including testifying to Congress on problems of security and transparency, suppressing the vote. She was a big part of the wonderful work of the Office of the Americas for many years, which led by Teresa and Blaise Bonpane. Hi, Teresa. We're so grateful that you're a part of Church in Ocean Park. Thank you for your message, Mimi. And now we're going to go to Larry.
Yeah, I thought we'd sing Bread and Roses, a song that's familiar, I'm sure, to many of you. It's the song, the phrase Bread and Roses started back in 1910. A woman named Helen Todd was giving a speech about suffrage in Chicago, and she mentioned it and immediately caught on. And suffragists in California in 1911 put bread and roses all over their banners. That campaign won women the vote in California in 1911. In December of 1911, a man named James Oppenheim wrote a poem called Bread and Roses. That are the words of this song, and the music differs from singer to singer quite often. The version we're doing is one credited to Mimi Farina, the sister of Joan Baez, and but we heard a recording she did with John Denver, and it's a little different from some other versions we've heard. Anyway, mixes women's rights with workers' rights.
Can I say something really quick? I'm sorry to interrupt, but Larry, your image is cutting out because of the blurring, the background kind of thing.
That's right, yeah, and I'm too far back, I think.
Yeah, maybe something like that. Thank you.
as we go marching, marching in the beauty of the day. A million darkened kitchens, 1,000 mill lofts gray, are touched with all the radiance that a sudden sun discloses. For the people hear us singing, bread and roses, bread and roses. As we go marching, marching, we battle too for men, for they are women's children, and we mother them again. Our lives shall not be sweated from birth until life closes. Hearts starve as well as bodies. Give us bread, but give us roses. As we go marching, marching, we bring the greater days. For the rising of the workers means the rising of the race. No more the drudge and idler tend that toil where one reposes, but the sharing of life's glories, bread and roses, bread and roses. But the sharing of life's glories, bread and roses, bread and roses.
So beautiful, so beautiful. Thank you so much. All right, so now it's time where you could ask questions, or you can just make a statement if you like. And we have 2 people who have raised their hands, 3, the Zoom way. If you aren't not able to do that, you can also do this and we'll call on you as well. Jerry, now you go for it.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Well, thank you, Janet. And thank you, Larry and Mimi and Mimi. You know, I've been out picketing up there at the Fox Studios about a dozen times in solidarity. But I've never heard it explained so well, these common sense things and simple things that the actors and writers are asking for as the way you explained it now. And I just want to thank you as an activist. And I still remember when you came to our activist support circle, and I remember when the former SAG president, Ed Asner, came, may he rest in peace. And Janet too, and we're trying to start that up again. But I do real quick, just want to say I put it in a discombobulated way on the chat, acknowledging, I'm sure you know, Ross Altman, the singer-songwriter that would come and participate around Labor Day, and hope he's doing well. But I just wanted to ask you, Mimi, what can we do other than going out on the picket line and everything? What is it that we can do? Because I just don't see you losing. I don't know how long it's going to take before they give up, but I'd like to just hear some suggestions.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you for picketing. We do need bodies on the picket line, and we know that they'll diminish to some degree. But if you want to go and march with actors and writers, you get talking to them, you find out what they do. It's interesting. Go there. And SAG-AFTRA has the picket schedule, where to go, where to park, where the restrooms are, where everything, SAG-AFTRA's website. You just Google it, SAG-AFTRA strike schedule. That is hugely helpful. And I think the other thing is this is James Lawson, one-on-one evangelism. If you know an actor, and you've all heard me tell people if they talk about it, go, they're kind of middle class. I mean, they're not they're not as rich as lawyers, most of them, or even as doctors. They're more like, teachers, doctors who work in our healthcare system, and they're just asking to be paid a share of the wealth that aggregate show business produces. Lots of us work in the little $600 for 2 days indie things just because, yes, we love to act. And if they get a waiver from the union, then we'll do it. But a lot of us are in these humongous hits. I mean, Mom probably made close to $1 billion for Warner. And Chuck Lorre, as a producer, is very generous with his actors. He really tries to strike a good deal, but he is marching as a writer, as a showrunner. He's not in the alliance of motion picture and television producers. He's not management, and we need management to acknowledge that they need to share the wealth of the actors and writers union. So just tell people, I know an actor, and you might not even know her name or her face, but she works all the time and she's middle class, and she's asking to retain her ability to not become destitute and look for an apartment for her and her 75-year-old. I mean, it is like that. It's some people call it rich people's problems, but it's not. It's working people's rights and dignity. And just let people know that's what it's about. These averages, which are small enough, are averaged in with $10 million Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. God bless them. I hope they save their money too. I think they do.
Thank you, Mimi. I'm Craig.
Thank you. When I look at this Labor Day, I'm looking at all of the things that are asking, all of the people, not things, sorry about that, all of the people who are asking, for fair and equitable treatment within this. And because actors are the ones that we see most often within this text, they ring loudly the most. I may have asked this, and you may have answered, so please, I beg your indulgence. It is that, I'm curious as to at what point does, I guess you could say, governmental agencies, since so much is involved in your struggle, such as healthcare, does government more or less see a need to step in as mediators and or arbitrators for this issue? Because essentially, if indeed they refuse, and it becomes a take it or leave it type thing, where's the fairness and who can more or less benefit, from that? So, my question is, do you see government as playing a role as arbitrator and a mediator for this issue? Or is this one of those industries that just doesn't have that?
No, we do. And I am not on any negotiating committee, so I had to Google information. And what you're asking me is not something I have definite hold of, but I did see in a newspaper article, I believe, that the government has offered arbitrator. And I think the motion picture side, the alliance, did not respond to that. They don't want it. They're not talking. I think that's where it stands now. But I did read somewhere that gesture has been made for precisely the reason you're asking. But since I'm not on any of these strike councils, I really don't know where that landed. But my impression is that both sides would have had to agree to it. And I think the alliance was like, we don't need that. But you could correct me if I'm wrong. And that's one of the things when I came to this, I thought, oh, I might not be the right person to talk about this. But I'm glad I was able to explain the overall context clearly enough for you to get it. But that's a piece I don't exactly have. But yeah, the government does know that this is going to cost billions of dollars.
Mm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mimi. Rachel Rose?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mimi, for your presentation. I want to give a little bit of a story of my own. I mean, when you asked how many people have, raise your hand if you have been an artist within a union. And I would have loved to have been able to raise my hand.
Exactly.
But after working more than 10 years as a production designer and an art director and an art department, out of all that time, I only worked one job where we flipped the show from non-union to union. And I was 10 days short of being eligible for the art directors union. So in all of this visibility with the unions, what I'm requesting is that the threshold for entry into the unions be lowered, because my life probably would have looked a whole lot different than it does today if I had been able to get into the art directors union and actually been able to get decent paying art direction jobs, which I was barred from getting because I wasn't in the union. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I have this thought. It's been ever thus. To get into a Actors Equity, to get into a union show, you had to have a union card. To have a union card, you have to have been in a union show. How did I get around it? I finally knew someone who sent me to an audition for a union show, and I got the job and my equity card at the same time, because having this job meant I had to have the equity card. In Hollywood, you can't even audition unless you have the card, unless you know someone. And I'm sure, Rachel, that was part of your dilemma. And if you don't know someone who sponsors you to get you a union job, assisting, and helps you get your union card, it's damn near impossible. And, those are my thoughts. It is too hard, and it's a catch-22, and almost everyone in an artistic union faces it. And I'm really sorry. I've never been an art director. I've never been in that level, but I do know that they're very cozy. It's a family, and it's who you know in that union. And there are so few jobs that they give them to people who already are in the union for solidarity with the union. So it's hard to be a new person. And I'm so sorry that you were probably in an economic crunch where there weren't enough jobs to go around.
Thank you, Mimi. Appreciate it. Trudy, morning.
Good morning, y'all. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Mimi, as some of you know, I come from a union family whose dad was part of the Writers Guild and founder of the Black Writers Guild West. And I just know how difficult it is for folks that are in the industry to take care of their families, because at certain times we were able to pay rent or pay our mortgage and go and travel. And other times we had to really, really tighten the belt because we were dependent on my mom's RN work as a nurse. And folks who think that everyone can live like a Tom Cruise because they see him on TV just don't even know the half of it. I can remember times when my dad had to apply for unemployment, and he found himself in great company with other artists, actors, and writers and such at the unemployment office, and he would come home laughing about it. So I make sure that when I talk to folks that I let them know that this is a struggle. And as you said, Mimi, everyone that's working in Hollywood is not necessarily wealthy. And I think what I came up with as you were answering Jerry's question was, I keep saying, okay, I don't belong to any of the Hollywood unions, so it doesn't make sense for me to go out on a picket line. Well, hell, I spend a great deal of my day being entertained by folks on TV. So I do have a dog in this race.
Yes, you do.
And I have other friends who have the same type of dependency on entertainment that I can talk to about going down as a group of TV lovers or movie lovers and supporting those people that we care so much about. And okay, and this is my question. I mean, I'm often asking myself, should I be going to the movie theaters right now? So, and I think the answer to that is yes. But I want to know if there are other concrete ways that folks like me who love the entertainment industry can be of help other than the picket lines.
Knowing this is the second question here, it's starting to formulate in my mind that, of course, letter writing campaigns to Disney, Warner Brothers, Netflix, and then I would think SAG-AFTRA might have that on their website. Can you all see in the chat the picket schedule and locations are at sagaftrastrike.org/picket? You don't have to have the exact thing, but there it is. Thank you for saying you go down there. And I want to tell you that if you're marching, I went down without anybody else that I knew, and I saw a guy with a knee brace and a cane, and I said, I'm going to march beside you because you look like you're going to be going my speed. Turns out we had a fantastic mutual friend who had recently passed away, and we spent the time telling stories. I also asked somebody else what they did because I saw their sweatshirt had a show I watch, and she was the art director. Well, Rachel kills me that you aren't in the union. But she was the art director for this show. And I talked to her for half an hour and praised her and found out more stuff. You as fans, as television watchers, yes, you could say I'm here as an ally to have bodies on the line. And what do you do? And you're going to find out. Or they might say, what do you watch? And if you did, oh, that person is right up there. You will be welcomed. But I do believe that there might at some point have to be sort of a watcher-based, fan-based acknowledgement that this is going on, and I don't know what form it would take, but I do think a letter, old-fashioned letter written to somebody saying, I'm gonna stop watching until you give the creative people what they deserve, something like that. So far, that's what it is. But right now, picket lines need to be populated. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mimi. Teresa.
Yes, hello. Hi, I just want to mention that since I met Mimi and Larry in the 1980s, a couple of years after we opened the Office of the Americas, and I knew Mimi as an actress, and Larry was a wonderful professor, came with me on my teenage delegation to Nicaragua, etc. But one of the things that has amazed me, Mimi, about your role as an actress who's been out there in the front lines, since that time that I met you, I always thought of the peace and justice movement as something like a bicycle wheel with many spokes. And the peace and justice, so it's the labor movement, it's the war movement, it's all the different, the climate change. And many of us tend to choose one of those spokes to really, and we were doing mostly Central American work at the time, but we also stopped and always did like the living wage campaign in Santa Monica. And whatever the spoke was that we were trying to work on, as well as our Central American work, Mimi and Larry were always there. and Mimi came, and we would call on Mimi and Martin Sheen almost every time and say, "We need you. We're out there with the workers at the hotels." And Martin pulled off a great scene there one night. But Mimi, you've always been wherever the movement has taken you to all of the spokes. So it hasn't just been the Screen Actors Guild, although that's incredibly important and more so now. But I just think that you and Larry both, I must say, exemplify people who take the whole peace and justice thing as one entity, which is the betterment of our people and their work. So I just want to applaud you for that and for all of your union work as well as all the other work that you've been doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much. Daria, and then Jean, and then we'll close out.
Yeah, thank you, Mimi. I wasn't aware of any of the context or history behind these strikes. I sort of knew about it, not really. But I am thinking about your talk in light of actors who are not white, actors who are not cisgender. I have a very good friend, Kevin, who is an actor, a singer. He's a musician. He is part of SAG, but he struggles. You know, he's in his mid to late 40s. He's a Black man, and I think about his struggle and how real that is, because actors, it's not just about can you get a job, it's will Hollywood see you as worthy of getting a job based on your skin color. And yeah, racism still exists. So I'm thinking about that as I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking about even trans actors, actors who don't get picked for roles because of their gender. And I don't know, I'm just thinking about it. I don't have any like question, but just thinking.
I'd love to talk to that. There's been so much movement in terms of that kind of different. The Orange is the New Black actress that I cited. She's not transgender, but she's not cisgender. And that's why I brought that up. I don't know how much she's worked since Orange is the New Black, but she's hugely famous. And I'm sure she's probably suffering in this strike like we all are, or she's doing projects that I have not yet seen and don't know about. But one of the things my manager has said to me is, I'm not going to be able to send you up for as many auditions as I should, Mimi, because in your category, they are often going to choose diversity. They're going to choose somebody who's not a cisgender white woman. You're a woman, and that's good. They might want a woman, but they might not want you. I might not be able to get you in. And I've always thought, oh, I've actually been glad that I'm part of a thing where I have to give a little in order to get something. What I'm getting is a more diverse culture and more stories and more justice. And what I'm giving is a little bit of privilege that I would have expected 20 years ago. So I just want you to know. And in fact, he said that he can't take on any clients that aren't either African-American or Latino because of this problem. He wanted his people to work, and he couldn't get some of his people who almost get leads because they're almost going to be the leading man or woman, and then they're just a working actor. Well, now we're in a different category. So you should just know that the unions, 1913, equity was against segregation, the union. It's always been in the forefront, these actors' unions trying to push back against injustice in that way. I mean, they haven't always been successful, let's face it, but at least that's the stance. And it is now. And Screen Actors Guild has rules about how diverse your casts have to be, how much diversity you have to do in your audition process. You know, they've come a long way for that. Probably another thing that the executives resent. Oh God, we have to keep statistics about diversity. You know, well, too bad. We're trying to change and improve the stories you see. That's a piece I didn't talk about before. We're trying to make Hollywood better. It will be better with the more voices and the more participation, not the less, not the more one executive does a robot from their idea. Okay.
Thank you, Mimi. Great information. We'll close this out with Jean.
Well, on a different tack, I was a working teacher and I was very naive about unions. My first job as a teacher was 10 years at a beautiful little school, very family like, principal like a gem. And then I went into public school and I spent, unfortunately, years in charter schools because they were so innovative and they did all these things for kids, but they didn't have protection from the union. So if you have children or grandchildren and their parents are looking for schools for them, ask the question if the teachers are protected by a union, because 3 different times I had terrible principals who manufactured cases against me and I had nowhere to go. I lost my job for the next year because there was nobody to protect me. I went to the board and testified. I had parents testifying and crying, Miss Jean, she needs to stay. Our children love her. And nobody listened. So do ask that question if you know somebody who's looking at a charter school for a child.
Right. Thank you so much, everybody, for your sharing.
Wow. Thank you so much. So please just take a good stretch and make sure you are breathing, because we are going to get to see one of our favorite people today. We're so missing having Ross Altman with us here. But through the magic of YouTube, we're going to get to see him sing a song about working as a folk singer. And this song is called Folk Singer Americanus.
Well, Louise is getting that ready. I'll just let you know that Ross is in a care home, but it's a beautiful little 6 people are there in the and he loves his caregivers, and he's in such great spirits for somebody who really can't get out. And like Louise said in the chat, he would appreciate phone calls, and today would be great. You could call him on Labor Day, but any day is good.
Here's a song for Earth Day that I wrote, I won't tell you how many years ago. There's only a few of us left, and hard times are upon us. I'm a member of an endangered species, folk singer Americanus, with a guitar on my back. I'm like that desert tortoise, everything I need I carry with me. This old guitar case looks like hell, as tough as that old tortoise shell. I know how he feels, I'm 63, and it isn't easy trying to be free. They booked me out of college to open for a rock band, said they needed a folk singer to celebrate Earth Day. I told them I'd sing songs written by Malvina Reynolds. There was a long pause on the telephone, and they said, who's she? And that's when I started counting up my birthdays. I said, she wrote little boxes, recorded by Pete Seeger. They hadn't heard of him either. I said, he was Woody Guthrie's old traveling companion. They said, Woody Guthrie? Was he Arlo Guthrie's father? And I thought, why me, Lord? Why me? But I could tell. I've been around long enough, I could smell another gig from hell. The students talked through every song. No one came to listen. I was only there to fill the silence. I could see the morning headlines plain. Last folk singer dies insane. Earth Day concert ends in violence. As I sang Malvina's What Have They Done to the Rain, with a guitar on my back, I'm like that desert tortoise. Everything I need I carry with me. This old guitar case looks like hell. It's tough as that old tortoise shell. I know how he feels, I'm 63. Well, I was only 43 when I wrote the song, but I keep changing it every decade. And it isn't easy trying to be free. So put me on that list with the California condor, the dusky seaside sparrow, and the passenger pigeon. Some of us still struggling on, others called up yonder, 'cause I was born to wander and sing. Give me that old time religion. Guitar on my back, I'm like that desert tortoise. Everything I need I carry with me. This old guitar case, it looks like hell. Its tough as that old tortoise shell. I know how he feels, I'm 63. And it isn't easy trying to be free.
Was a great choice, Dr. Kim. And yes, I talked to Ross the other day. He is in very good spirits, and it was fun to talk to. I reminded him of the song that I heard, and he just sang the whole thing.
So I know about Virginia's birthday. Any other birthdays? Want to wave your hand?
I thought Chuck said this is his birthday week. Is that true?
Right. That's right.
Huh?
All right, Virginia and Chuck.
This is the 8th.
Hey,
Do you want to be sung to today, Chuck? Or
mine's the 8th. You can sing it as many times as an hour later.
sing
And
twice, you know. We should
but
sing
my
twice.
birthday will be the 8th, and
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear Chuck.
Woohoo!
Happy birthday, dear Virginia. Happy birthday to you.
thank you.
There's a song that we absolutely must do here on Labor Day Sunday, and that is Solidarity Forever.
Yes, West Virginia.
Yes, absolutely. So I'll try to get. All right. And there's several different verses. I'll try to get as many as I can in the chat. Okay, so here we go. When the union's inspiration through the workers' blood shall run, there can be no greater power anywhere beneath the sun. Yet what a force on earth is weaker than the feeble strength of one? For the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. It is we who plowed the prairies, built the cities where they trade, dug the mines and built the workshops, endless miles of railroad laid. Now we stand outcast and starving midst the wonders we have made, but the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. All the world that's owned by idle drones is ours and ours alone. We have laid the wide foundations, built it skyward stone by stone. It is ours not to slave in, but to master and to own. We'll have to rewrite that a little bit. While the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. A solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. They have taken untold millions that they never toiled to earn. But with our brain and muscle, not a single wheel can turn. We can break their haughty power, gain our freedom when we learn that the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. In our hands is placed a power greater than their hoarded gold, greater than the might of armies magnified 1,000-fold. We can bring to birth a new world from the ashes of the old, for the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. All right, we got to sing that chorus one more time for the actors and for the writers. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. So we're going to have to write a new verse for for those that are out striking now, for the actors and for the writers. We got to write a new verse. So here we go.
That's right. Thank you, Dr. Kim. Wonderful way to end. And I thank you all for your sharing and for enlightenment and for the spirit. It's uplifted by the spirit, as I always am from this church. So now we're going to unmute and we're going to grab hands in a big circle all the way around wherever you are. We're leaving holes between our hands so that people who aren't with us now could join us, people we step over, people who are on the street, people who we might not recognize. They're all with us at the same time, and we say together, carry on. 1, 2, 3. Carry on.
Carry on.
Carry on.
Carry on.
Carry on.
Carry on.